Case will move forward in Brown County against the accused Green Bay drug maker known locally and internationally as Uncle Fester. 65-year-old Stephen Priestler is facing roughly 9 felony drug charges and is accused of running a meth lab out of his Green Bay home on South Baird Street. In the First Alert Update, Brittany Schmidt tells us what happened in court today as Priestler's daughter was removed by security.
Stephen Priestler, also known as Uncle Fester, has 2 pending felony drug cases in Brown County right now. A court commissioner addressed both of them on Tuesday.
State of Wisconsin versus Stephen Priestler.
Priestler waived his right to a preliminary hearing for the first set of charges he faces after his home became the focus of a days-long police investigation this summer.
Made aware that the only way to get the crime lab to do analysis is to have a trial date, and this is going to go around and around forever. I waived my preliminary hearing in order to get the crime lab to analyze the material that's in their possession.
Action 2 News was first to alert you to the investigation in mid-July, where police found large amounts of meth and cocaine inside Priestler's home on South Baird Street, along with chemicals and equipment used to make it. Priestler received a $100,000 cash bond for those charges. He posted bond. But a few weeks later, Green Bay police arrested him again, charging him with additional felony drug charges after a disturbance call. Those charges were the focus of a preliminary hearing Tuesday.
You know who the woman identified in the complaint was, saying, "Get off of me"?
I believe the other officers had identified her as Mr. Priestler's daughter.
Did the call identify who the suspect was?
I don't recall.
The court commissioner bound Priestler over for trial, setting an arraignment for January. Priestler's defense attorney asked to lower bond, arguing it's too high, while the state argues Priestler knew what he was doing.
Cases collectively are allegations of nonviolent drug offenses. No one has been hurt, no one's been injured, no witnesses have been intimidated.
And as far as counsel saying, there's no intimidation, this is a case where he's ordering somebody else to crotch some methamphetamine so that he is not picked up.
During bond arguments, Priestler's daughter raised her hand to talk, becoming emotional. Security escorted her out.
I want to talk about to my dad's case.
The court commissioner denied the motion for bond modification. It remains collectively at $400,000. While Priestler's bond remains the same, so too does his home on South Baird Street. It remains boarded up and closed by the city of Green Bay as that case also makes its way through the court system. The city of Green Bay calls Priestler's home a chronic nuisance and is in the process of taking possession of it. In Green Bay, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.